We are going. Go
All
ahead.
right, so everyone, C is for cookie, and cookie is for me. There's I don't even want to call it a bug, but there's a exploit that you can do using favicons. And this was discovered by a 20-year-old researcher named John Astrelay. Anyway, this 20-year-old student figured out that when you request a cookie, you obviously send a you obviously you send out a URL request to download the image, right? And what you can do is you can actually request multiple cookies, or sorry, multiple favicons per page. And what you can do is then you can use that to fingerprint who is visiting your website. So for example, if let's say you could have them download 4 cookies, right? And or not 4 cookies, sorry. You can have them download 4 favicons using sort of, using unique codes. And using those codes, you can then fingerprint who is using the browser, regardless of whether they have cookies enabled, whether they deleted their cookies, whether they have whether they're in private mode. You can track anyone using these favicons, which I think is brilliant. And yeah, I just wanted to share this research.
Well, now wait a minute. Now, how do I make my page load more than one favicon anyway?
There is a tag that you can put in, link rel icon href equals favicon.
Okay. And now after I do that, how do I find out something about the visitors viewing my page or my favicon in my server logs?
So yeah, so what you can, yes, you can have them link to pages that have unique favicons depending on the visitor, right? And then depending on which ones they receive. So every time you visit a page, it'll cache the favicons, right? So if you've already downloaded favicon icon A, it knows not to look for that anymore.
Oh, okay. So I could identify repeat visitors to my same page.
Right. And then, but by having multiple favicons to download, you can specifically identify who is coming to your page, regardless if they're in private mode or have cookies enabled or anything. You can essentially use their cache to track the people, which is cool.
So private mode should turn off the favicons.
Yeah, it should. It currently does not turn them off, but I mean, it's not, it's just cool. 20-year-old researcher. I dig that. Thumbs up.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Alan, good. Oh yeah, GameStop. Everybody is talking about this one.
GameStop once again, but it sounds like, according to this analysis, that GameStop is not in fact GameStonk. According to this analysis, during that week in which GameStop shot up so much, the number of shares being traded and the prices involved, the volume of money involved, would make it pretty much impossible for small-time retail investors using Robinhood to have influenced the price so much. During that week, there were purchases in total of $150 billion over the available number of shares that were outstanding on the market. And those shares turned over on average 3 times. So there was an extreme amount of buying and selling. And it's just not possible for common investors to have been involved in this. 682 million shares at an average price of $218. Robinhood players aren't going to be able to move markets like that. Furthermore, there may have been some illegal activity in which big institutional players were doing what's called naked shorts, in which the investor is shorting the stock, but they never take delivery of the stock. Shorts are a form of borrowing stocks, but in a naked short, they never even take possession of the stocks. It's a way to amplify the effect of short selling and drive down the price even faster. And this is what happened after GameStop hit its peak. The prices very suddenly jumped, or I should say it fell precipitously. And it's speculated that that's because of the naked short selling, which from a the purely investing standpoint was very effective because somebody made a lot of money when the share price fell by half in just a day. On the other hand, it's also illegal. So, or in certain conditions, it's illegal, such as this. So somebody may be getting in trouble for this, but it's not the Robinhood investors and it's not Reddit.
Yeah, that sounds quite reasonable to me. And I think the lesson we can draw from this, which I'm hoping Elizabeth Warren will act on, is that we need to change the rules. I mean, there's already certain levels of margin trading that are illegal here, and we just need more friction in the market. You shouldn't be able to have these massively leveraged up and down swings. This is what caused the original meltdown of the Dow Jones about 15 years ago when program trading first went in. There ought to be like a 5-minute delay in every purchase or something, and a limit of no more margin than like a factor of 10 or something. And there are limits like that, but I think they need to make them stricter and enforce them better.
Yes, because this has absolutely nothing to do with the value and performance of the company. It's all about a very unusual quirk in some investors' over-leveraged short positions on this particular stock. And it could have been any company out there. It just happened to be GameStop.
Yeah, and these highly leveraged transactions and program tradings just create instability in the system. So small variations will be greatly magnified and make it unnecessarily chaotic.
Yes, yes. And hopefully something actually does get done about it this time. I mean, on the other hand, not much got done after the great crash in 2008. So we'll see what happens this time. I'm not all that optimistic.
Well, I think Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are in pretty powerful positions now, and they're both in the mood to do something. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Now we're done. Yeah. So anyway, Elon Musk has been pushing Bitcoin and Doge, and he finally put $1.5 billion of his money into Bitcoin. So that pushed Bitcoin even higher. So this is what the Bitcoin enthusiasts have been hoping, is that major banks and major real investors will start putting their money in Bitcoin, which will create some stability in the market. And I mean, the whole concept of Bitcoin is that you do not need any government or regulation to create a currency. Just the people investing in it alone can create all the governance you need. And I am extremely skeptical of that, but we are going to see. I think Tesla by itself is about as powerful as most governments. So this is in favor of the cryptocurrency investor to keep saying, take this seriously. And all these boomers like me say, it's not a company, it doesn't make any profit, there's no government, this is garbage, stay away from it. But you know, if Tesla's in, then there's a company, then it's like stock. So anyway, it's a major move forward for the Bitcoin promoters. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so this is kind of interesting in that this hacker gang has been using a new piece of malware to hit Kubernetes system. So, and I thought this article was pretty cool because it gives a really detailed breakdown of the kill chain, and as they go through, or the attack chain rather, as they go through the exploitation of these systems. I mean, the whole point of running this is to mine cryptocurrency. Something we're going to talk about a little bit later in the newscast today, since 3 or 4 of us all picked the same article to talk about, which is going to be a good one. But this is pretty good. I really like write-ups like this that give you a full technical breakdown of the attack mechanisms and how they go about mounting the exploit on these systems. So go check it out if you are interested in that stuff too.
You know, I think mining cryptocurrency is a really miserable way to monetize a hacked system. I think this shows like it's almost a proof of concept and not a crime at this point. I think it's amazing they choose such a miserable way to waste a machine they've hacked. I mean, the real way to make money is crypto locking or spam. Anyway, the stuff
Yeah, I mean,
I've shown so that the amount of Monero you can mine is like peanuts.
it is, they say the best engineer is a lazy end engineer. And if you jack someone else's crypto wallet that they've already gone to all the trouble of mining that for you, that's definitely a more efficient way to go about it.
Yeah. This is why I think what we see here, this looks to me like an individual, small group. This is why you need a team. There are like people that make exploits, people that make the command and control centers, people who make the monetization of it, just like the above board economy. You need specialization in the crime economy for more efficiency. Anyway.
Definitely interesting. I'm going to look more into that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, man, this is pretty scandalous.
So not only is it scandalous, but the original article is now gone.
Whoa, they took it down.
They took it down.
Bleep.
Not that you can't get it, of course. You just scroll down over here to the articles and you'll see the original article.
They took it down.
They took it down. So Signal was trying to help people use Signal in Iran. And they found a way by setting up a TLS proxy as a way around the blockage that the Iranian government has put on. But some people found a way that this could get exploited. And according to the Now article, the way that it was put was not in a respectful manner. So they just removed everything from GitHub, just like that.
Well, I know, unfortunately, I read the original article yesterday, and they said they found a security problem, and Moxie Marlinspike just silenced them and took everything down unfairly. Now they seem not so sure who to blame.
Right.
When this kind of thing happens, you really need to publish a good explanation. Like Cloudflare is good at this. When something bad happens, they give you a complete write-up. Here's what they said. Here's why we took it down. Otherwise, you look like you're hiding a guilty secret, ignoring security problems, abusing researchers. We really need a clear explanation of what happened here.
Right. So you can see the original article.
Yeah.
On the Wayback Machine already. And yeah, according to Moxie, they didn't do it in a respectful manner or through the right channel, so they were automatically silenced. And yeah.
Well,
Computer took out their original article.
Yeah, but silencing a complaint is a really bad move. I'm surprised Moxie did that.
Yeah.
That's going to require some explanation. I mean, it's far better to leave it up and then say, here's why this is wrong.
Right.
Anyway,
interesting. Oh, speaking of Iran.
Yeah. So I remember a long time ago, Sam, you posted a picture of power usage of Bitcoin mining going through the roof. And that's kind of actually what's happening. Chinese Bitcoin miners, or just coin miners in general, have moved their operations to Iran. And because it's cheaper, so it's 4 times cheaper to get electricity in Iran. So they're actually moving their entire operations to where electricity is the cheapest. Well, why is the electricity cheap? Well, apparently there's not much of it and they're not good at producing it. So what's happening is that these crypto miners are using up all the electricity. Oh, fire alarm went off. They're using up all the electricity, and there's not enough left for everyone else.
I thought Iran was like suffering terribly under American sanctions and could hardly keep anything working. It seems like the worst place to have Bitcoin mining.
Yeah, but it's cheap. You see, that's the thing. All Bitcoin mining is it's converting electricity into money.
Yeah.
And so if you can get electricity cheap, you can get cheap Bitcoin money.
Well, what China started doing is charging the Bitcoin miners more. I mean, that's what Iran needs to do. But anyway, maybe their political system makes that difficult.
Yeah, but if they do that, they're just going to take their operations somewhere else. I don't know where,
Which
but
would be fine. Who wants them anyway? What good are they?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yes.
Although a lot of their video cards have cool RGB lighting.
Yes.
Apparently,
Well, there's that.
And yeah, anyone out there thinking about joining the crypto mining craze, just take a look at what these people already have set up. The fact that they're already going into, other countries, and they have, all the, these giant rigs set up, and you think you're going to compete against them to get lots of, crypto mining done? I don't think so. So
Well, you have to mine something other than Bitcoin, like Monero.
well, that's true too. But even still, those people have Monero mining machines in places where they get electricity very cheap. So.
Well, yeah. And now we remember this one. This is Alan's.
Yes, and speaking of mining Bitcoin on the cheapest way to do it, of course, is to do it on somebody else's computer. And that seemed to work out pretty well for a hacker who, unfortunately for him, eventually got nabbed and is now imprisoned. And his Bitcoin wallet is in the possession of German authorities, or at least one copy of it is in the possession of the authorities. The only problem for the authorities is that it contains 1,700 Bitcoin, and the prisoner isn't telling them the password or claims to have forgotten it. So that's about $60 million that are just sitting there in that Bitcoin. And if this prisoner has another copy of that wallet, once he gets out in another year or two, then he can just get his money back there. So
why would he tell them the password? What possible motivation?
That's right. So he's got himself a pretty sweet deal if he can just survive prison for a few more years.
Well, if he did get out and then cough up the password and use it, wouldn't that be a crime? I guess it's an interesting issue for lawyers.
Yes, I suppose so. A second crime. But if he can flee the country and go to a jurisdiction where he no longer has to worry about the reach of German authorities, maybe he can get away with it.
Yeah.
Or
one of the things that really interests me about this, and is only very briefly noted in the article, is that this was made through crypto mining, stealing cycles on other people's computers to perform crypto mining. And this guy got 1,700 Bitcoin doing this.
Yeah, so maybe it's more effective than I thought, which is very surprising. I mean, maybe years ago when it was easy.
Right. It must have been some years ago. And from what I understand, Bitcoin mining has really fallen off, or at least this kind of stolen cycle Bitcoin mining.
Well, because you have to be one of the fastest machines in the world. So some small random machine won't make you any money, but it will with Monero.
Right. But at least some years ago, it was highly effective, and it probably didn't require much human labor or very many people, many participants. It could have been a solo operation. So during that window, it was extremely profitable. Even large malware campaigns, ransomware campaigns can't generate this kind of revenue. So it's quite impressive.
Of course. I wonder if he mined Monero and then traded it to Bitcoin, but nobody knows, I guess.
My thought, this was the story that I think 3 or 4 of us all submitted because it was pretty interesting. My thought too was, what's to prevent him from giving his password to a friend or to someone in a country where maybe this isn't even illegal.
Right.
There are a lot of ways to approach this one.
Oh yeah.
And who knows if he's thought of those.
Well, they usually think of a lot in these long, lonely hours in the cell. All right, and then we got the super soldier. So this is, the Chinese, again, did some genetic manipulation on a human to make them resistant to a disease. And it again shows that even though that is even illegal in China, it certainly happens there more than elsewhere. And the one thing that is, of course, happening in all the military is making super soldiers, just like the Marvel movie, Captain America. They would like to genetically modify embryos to make them stronger. And the argument here is the same argument every military group always says, which is our enemies are already doing it. We need to do it too before they do it because it's so wrong. So anyway, the technology exists. It's existed for a long time. Dolly the sheep was cloned about 20 years ago. There have definitely been cloned humans. Just none of them are full grown and admitting it yet. But we're moving into the age of like genetically modified humans. With CRISPR, you could do it. And it's very difficult to believe that nobody is already doing it. Anyway.
Well, it has to be said that the Chinese researcher who was responsible for that debacle has been imprisoned. So
yeah, but
the Chinese government is not looking very favorably on this.
Well, sure, but the argument here is that they don't want random people doing it in the commercial sector, but it's probably happening secretly in the military sector, which sounds quite plausible to me.
Mm-hmm.
But there is no proof.
Yeah.
Right.
So we got another we got another cryptocurrency access story here.
Yep.
This seems like something that I would do. He's a former CTO of Ripple, who got a ton of Bitcoins like a decade ago for teaching people about cryptocurrency, and then forgot the password, promptly lost or forgot the password. So now it's like it's up to like $240 million, and he can't get into the wallet. And I didn't realize this, but apparently there's some kind of login mechanism where I assume to protect that you get. It's a lockout mechanism where after a certain number of tries, it encrypts the entire contents of the wallet. And he's got 2 tries left. So that's a lot of money on the line to be unable to access because you forgot your password.
Yep. It's like the people have thrown away hard drives.
Yeah, I could totally see myself doing that, something stupid like that.
Oh, I have done that. I forgot the password to my grade books from a few years back. If some student wanted to know their grade, I can't find it. But I don't happen to have like $240 million of Bitcoin. By the way, Ripple, I think, is a total dumpster fire. I think they just got kicked off the exchanges and everything else.
Yeah, I thought that they were already defunct, but apparently not.
Well, he was the Ripple guy a while ago.
Yeah.
I think Ripple has pretty much crashed and burned over the last 6 months. Yeah. And the barcode scanner. Yeah, this one's awesome.
So a completely harmless barcode scanner became infected with one update that no one really realized until they started seeing a bunch more ads and just weird behavior that wasn't expected. And Malwarebytes was able to figure out that it was the barcode scanner. And I think they said the last update was like December 8th.
This is more of that supply chain issue, right? You install stuff, then it's putting on updates, it's connecting and putting on ads. All these other people are running code on your machine that you didn't really know about or agree to or have audited for security or anything.
Right. And it happened as an update. So you normally don't think an update's going to have something bad, but yeah, it did.
And so the question is, were these guys evil all along? Did they get bought by someone evil? Did they just run out?
Hacked? Who knows? This doesn't really say.
Well, I know they're wondering. They say they'll probably never know. I mean, unless you have like a criminal investigation to find out the owner of the company and what went on here.
Right. So even your barcode scanner, something that looks completely and utterly not a threat vector at all, can be a threat vector. Just reminders.
And what is it that it started doing?
It started first with ads. Started giving you ads out of nowhere.
Oh, it pops up ads on the screen. Okay.
Yeah.
So it does sound to me like something I've seen many times. Somebody starts like an open source project for no money. And then after a few years, they say, please donate. And then nobody donates. And then they start doing something rotten like this because they're tired of having no money.
Yeah, it might be, but like this stuff, at least with this barcode scanner, used heavy obfuscation.
Yeah. So
that to me leans more of that. I guess then they probably just went evil after a while.
Yeah. Or just sold it to somebody. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. right, now for some bad news. So this article goes on basically the 10 to 20-year history of sort of military hacking, professional hacking of the United States government, and how we sort of took our philosophy that we apply to traditional, military operations and applied it to cyber operations, and it horribly backfired. Traditionally, the United States has a very big army, and we can kind of do whatever we want, right? And there's a lot of criticism to be said about that. So, we can enact sort of policing powers all over the world, and there's very little, any other countries can do. So if we invade another country, we can get our allies to come with us, and we never really have to worry about people retaliating, because who's going to attack the United States, right? And we sort of took that same attitude and applied it to cybersecurity. So we thought, oh yeah, well, we have the best and most well-funded cybersecurity offense. We're going to go off and we're going to, hack the, hack nuclear facilities, Stuxnet and stuff. And we just sort of kind of assumed that the same mentality would maintain, like, no one's really going to attack us back, right? We have the smartest people, we have the biggest budget. But of course, this is cyberspace, not real space, and the rules are slightly different. And so now we're in this space where our own hubris sort of has gotten us into a pickle. We thought that we were sort of too big to be attacked, and then we were smarter and better than everyone else, and that turns out not to be the case. And now we're in a big hole, and we have no idea how to get out of it.
Yep, I think that's definitely a story of modern America. It's like my foreign friends say, it's like watching the decline and fall of the Roman Empire.
It's not so much. It's not so much. It's not so much as looking at the decline of the Roman Empire. It's applying traditional methodologies, stuck in a traditional mindset. When there's a changing rule set.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right, what is this nonsense? A bedtime story.
This is old news. It goes back to 2018, but you can get an app called Calm, and on it you can get this thing called Once Upon a GDPR.
Oh, I've heard of Calm. I hear people trying to sell it all over the place now.
Yes, well,
they did not mention this feature.
Well, this is quite a great feature, because Once Upon a GDPR is just a man by the name of Peter Jefferson, who is formerly the shipping, or rather the maritime weather forecast announcer, who was recorded reading a big chunk of GDPR, the EU privacy regulations. And there's a little audio clip that's available on this page right here. You have to listen to it, because he does have an excellent voice, truly an excellent voice. But the text of the GDPR, which I have not read, is horrible. So it is guaranteed to be not insomnia inducing, excuse me, insomnia curing, guaranteed.
This is a great idea. I wonder how many students use my lectures this way. Anyway. Yeah, that's good. All right, so I got a bunch of ones here about politics, because that was what I wanted to talk about. So Stacey Abrams is fantastic. I mean, she ran this anti-voter suppression thing in Georgia, and it worked, and managed to get 2 Democratic senators in Georgia. And her conclusion, which I was very pleased, there is not a deep red South. There is just a suppressed South. The Republicans have put blocks up so Black people can't vote. And when you overcome those blocks, there's a large number of people that would like to get rid of the Republicans, which I thought is great. But the point is now the Republicans are vigorously passing more laws to block people from voting, because they've made a decision that instead of actually becoming a party that appeals to more people, they're just going to block voters and continue to focus only on the uneducated white male, class which is shrinking and block all others from voting, which I must say is certainly an American tradition right from our original founding, that the white males should run it and everybody else doesn't get a vote. So they can claim that they're more patriotic in that regard. But anyway, we have 2 years to fix this. And the only way to fix it, according to Stacey Abrams, is to get rid of the filibuster and ram this stuff through. Anyway, the stuff I thought was very interesting, and this was the second one I really liked. Hillary Clinton had Trump. I mean, that Trump, like 80% of Republican voters believe that the election was rigged and Trump got it stolen from him. And I was amazed, like what Hillary Clinton said. Trump always says this. He said this about the Oscar. He said this about everything, every little contest he's ever been in. He says, oh, it was rigged against me. They cheated over and over again, even on trivial little things. It is incredible that people actually believe this. He just says it as a reflex action because of his psychosis. And yet they follow him. And so where this leads, I think, is Myanmar. And that's why they said America's setting a bad example. In Myanmar, they held an election, somebody won, and the other guy said, oh, no, they rigged the election. I'm just taking power anyway. Now they jailed the person who really won, and the people are out protesting. But he's like, I'm going to stay in charge because all the elections are rigged. And this is what could have happened in America. Trump already tried it on January 6th. And so I think it is incredibly clear that this impeachment happening this week is super important. If the Republicans refuse to impeach him, which then he will come back in 2024, or he might, and then he will end American democracy, which he already tried to do. And the Republicans will cheer and support it. And it's very clear. The thing that impressed me is the Republicans have made it very clear. The reporters have been saying for years that when you talk to Republican legislators privately, they all hate Trump, but in public, they're with him. And I think we finally saw that very clearly last week when in a private vote, 2/3 of them vote to keep Liz Cheney, who is an anti-Trumper, in position because they really agree with her. But in public, 90% of them have to vote with Trump. And they have interviewed them and they have said privately, this is what I think people missed. When Trump led the January 6th insurrection, you have to listen to what he said. He said, your targets here are the Republican legislators. You are marching down there to make an angry, violent protest to scare the Republican legislators into staying in line and supporting me. This is basically the same as the Mexican drug cartel. And when you interview Republican legislators, they say the reason I support Trump publicly is because his mob will kill my family, which is just what the drug cartel people say. He is ruling by fear, and his real target are his own party legislators who have to be kept in line, just like any mob, by the threat of violence. And that is extremely effective. Anyway, it's fun to watch. And this is, I think, the only thing that's strongly opposing it. Now, the courts are refusing to be corrupt. He couldn't get any of his crooked things through the court, and the corporations are blocking it. And Microsoft has in fact done what the activists wanted them to do. They have promised for at least 2 years to not donate any money to any of those hundreds of Republicans that voted not to confirm the election results. So if enough corporations pull in here, then they might be able to pressure the Republican Party into moving back from this. But right now, I just see there's only about 10 or 11 Republicans that have the physical courage to risk death by Trump supporters to dare oppose him right now. So it's we're living through what Myanmar is living through. We're just about 1 year behind them. So anyway, this impeachment is, I was very surprised to hear an interview with Mark Cuban when they asked him, do you think Trump's really going to get convicted? And he said, oh yeah, they'll convict him in the Senate. And I'm like, I'd never heard anybody say that. The Republicans have made it very clear that they are too afraid of Trump to convict him, but it would be great if they would, but we'll see. Anyway, it's we're living through the collapse of our society and the end of our democracy. It's a lot less violent than in other countries, but it is just exactly the worst case that I laughed at all my friends. They said, oh, Trump is just going to refuse to leave. And I said, oh, no, you couldn't do that. But it's totally happening. Anyway, politics is the exciting story in America right now.
So I thought this was a cool project for a multitude of reasons. First off, it's something that can be built cheaply and easily by most folks. just a little bit of technical aptitude. You really don't. There's really not a high barrier to entry on this project, but one of my favorite things about this is that I started looking into security cameras some time ago, and it's really hard to find a good system that's ready to go off the shelf that either doesn't charge high subscription costs for cloud storage or supply the images and data from your cameras to law enforcement, third-party vendors that they might just sell stuff to, and so on. You might not want, the security cameras in your house going up to the Amazon cloud and having that data available to whoever. So this is a pretty cool way that you can build a self-contained system for a pretty cheap price. And just build it and run it and host it yourself if you want to. So I thought this was a cool project. I'm probably gonna try it myself here pretty soon. And I just wanted to share it with everybody so that you could have a good, easy alternative to make something that's not gonna expose you to the digital surveillance data market.
Yeah, I set up something like this years ago to find out who was stealing my paper.
Did you ever find out?
Yes, it was very simple. The Chronicle was just not delivering it. But I wouldn't have known that.
This is pretty cool.
Yeah.
For $60.
Yeah. And I mean, you can get a really high quality camera for like $50. You can get a crappy camera for $10. So it's pretty cool. And I liked that they did it also with an infrared cam. You did a version with an infrared cam so you can get night shots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd sort of like to deploy some near the college. There's several things that keep going on there. Like there's somebody that smashes all the glass out of all the bus stops over and over and over and over. And I keep thinking, couldn't I tie something at the top of a pole and find out who's doing that? Anyway.
And this one, I need a better name for this eventually. Just announcing the spring competition. I normally have 2 contests a year. This is the second one. Mm-hmm. It's naval based. Mm-hmm. It's really the Mayor's Cup. So teams are representing their city instead of individual teams themselves. This allows, for example, a high school who has 3 teams to become one. And in that process, the teams are still themselves, but going with our theme, every team becomes a battleship. So multiple battleships together become a fleet based off of the name of the city that they're all from. So we're going to give them quite the number of challenges for 72 hours that they have to set up and do, and then they'll face an interview panel, and then there'll be a live stream to display the winners.
So there will be something people can watch when it's over, or
yes, yeah, there will be something for people to watch.
That's good. Good. I like to see it.
So pretty exciting. Doing my best to go as full naval as I can with all the naval puns and jokes and all that kind of stuff.
And when does it start?
This is gonna run in April. So okay. Teams have until the 31st of March to sign up to play.
Okay.
And then the game starts April 5th.
Great. All right. I guess that's it, eh? I'll stop the recording.